Oh, shutdown, protest, revolution. Wow, what is going on in society? We are creating fear. Well, I wrote a blog about this on 12/12/2011, and it starts, Lockdown, another shooting. When I wrote this, there was another shooting on the Virginia Tech campus. Now, look, I have been through tragedy. I have been through times where you would want to be afraid. I was in the town of Blacksburg, Virginia, when the shooting took place, and they didn't know whether it was one or two shooters, and we knew that 32 had been killed and that he had been killed too, and so everybody was afraid to go out, and there was this somberness that fell over the whole town of Blacksburg, Virginia. If you've ever lived in an area like this where something's happened, you understand how much of a fear that can come over a community. Well, let me tell you, this coronavirus has caused fear to be in this whole nation and really around the world. Fear is something that can control you. And when you have what has been going on in this country after the heinous way in which an officer caused a man to die who was already handcuffed, and George Floyd dying the way that he did, and it creating cities and localities around this whole country that have been pent up from being at home, maybe not being at work as much in the shutdown that's occurred because of the virus and the frustrations for that, and they want to get that frustration out, so they're getting out and they're doing protests. And some places it's getting dangerous, and actually it's led to several deaths already. 5 I saw from one report that I just saw, and maybe more are to come. I mean, this is something that is increasingly getting worse and worse. But a lot of times when things happen and when situations occur which are unfamiliar, uncertain, even like this coronavirus, it leads to people creating fear. When you obsess over a particular thing, and you can make something worse than it is, or you can create the fear. So let me read you this blog article that I wrote when fear was being created after another lockdown occurred on that campus. On 12/12/2011 is when I had posted this on my website. Now, lockdown, another shooting on the Virginia Tech campus. Another gunman is at large. One has been killed, and we know now it was a policeman. Now another has been found dead. The suspect is said to be a young white male in a hooded sweatshirt with a backpack. The Interstate 81 rest stop in Radford is also closed indefinitely. This is how Thursday afternoon went here in the Blacksburg and New River Valley area of Virginia. There had been a trial run of this type thing back on 8/4/11, just before the semester began. Could this actual 12/8/11 shooting be another 4/16/07 all over again? Ironically, all of this activity was happening on the same day that there was a hearing about alleged violations of the Clery Act in Virginia's state capital, Richmond. Police from all over the area were descending upon Blacksburg again. Virginia State Police were taking the lead in the investigation. The news media was on the story, and the local news agencies were overriding normal programming, just as is going on now so often because of these protests in places like Atlanta and local cities everywhere. News of the latest shooting event spread quickly around the world. Horror, sadness, and wonder gripped the emotions of people all throughout the communities. Fear began creeping in and controlling decisions that people all over this area were making. Fear was being created. Now, have you ever thought about this, about what I'm talking about here? Fear can be created. Perhaps you can remember those times that you and some friends were sitting around telling ghost stories. Maybe you recall some time when you were watching a mysterious or even a horror movie. I know you know of those times. You've done that with friends around a campfire or in your home in the dark, or when you're younger or something, maybe more so, or watching a scary movie or something. But what about the times when you started thinking about the evil that is in this world and wondering if something bad was going to happen right around you? Fear can be created. In fact, fear is a natural and a quite common emotional response. Is not worrying about the future, what has yet to happen in time, something we all tend to do and have to face? Do you worry? Worrying is not the same as reasonably thinking ahead and planning. Does something yet to happen in time, or something you are convinced is likely to happen, consume you and control actions that you take? For many, it often does for many. And indeed, it is when we repeatedly think or obsess about any particular thing. Will most likely then be creating fear. And friend, is this not true? Is this not why more people are wearing masks? Often for psychological reasons of feeling more safe, because they're often not even worn in a way that could prevent catching some virus. I mean, you are creating fear when you obsess over what might happen and worry over what could happen, when a lot of those things don't happen, but you continue on in that, and you can create fear, and you can often even fulfill prophecies of things that you are afraid of. Now, I say here, thoroughly discussing and thinking about this would require more time and space than I have here to do. However, if you want to think further with me, as I said here, is it not often true that we create our own reality and situations? The way we daily interact with others psychologically impacts them, and then they respond from wherever they are at the time. Each of us has much power and influence in the lives of all those around us, whether we think we do or not. We do. No man is an island. No person is alone. And we do impact other people. We are naturally curious and social creatures. We all regularly make judgments about people and things in our lives. Like it or not, this is true. Our judgments may not always be right and are often not thoroughly objective. We all come to others and interact with them from our own perspective or bias, and naturally tend to compare ourselves with others. This is natural, but it's not wise. When we get into a mindset of looking at and comparing our lives with others, we no doubt will become prejudiced against some and even begin to create our own atmosphere that involves fear on at least some level. When we do this, we are unable to show real love to others. The Bible makes this very clear as well. 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears has not been made perfect in love." Now, friend, are you fearful? Are you afraid? Love and fear are contrary to one another. If you truly love, you will not fear. Now, one fear that you can have, which will allow you to not be afraid of anything else, is what I talk about in my first of the top 10 lessons to learn. Because if you fear God above all, you don't have to fear what any person will do to you. You don't have to fear anything else. You need to be cautious. You need to be wise, but you don't have to be afraid. You need to take precautions and be as safe as you can, but you don't have to fear. Now, I said this at the end of this here. I said, friend, with the labels that have been placed upon me, and it was after that horrible 4/16/07 tragedy, I know and have come to personally understand how harmful and devastating fear can be. You can look at my book and see that, and whether I would let fear control me or whether it was faith. Will you allow fear and worry or love and service to control you and the daily decisions and interactions you have? There are things that we should be concerned about and even fear on some level. Evil is real. If you will learn with me, you will come to see that the number one lesson from 4/16/07, just as I referenced a minute ago on the top 10 list that I discuss in my book, and the number one lesson from this latest 12/8/11 as I was writing this shooting, and in reality, the number one lesson in life is to fear God above all. It is possible to fear and love Him. You can trust God and His Word no matter what, which is the theme of the book that I wrote and what I had last said to my kids before they were whisked away from me. You should be creating that kind of fear, a fear of the Lord, and not a fear of circumstances or situations that happen in your life. So, friend, I took this time to have this atmosphere with the help of my wife and family and friends here, and be able to make it be the atmosphere that would kind of illustrate this idea of fear that can come on you. And don't let fear control you. Don't let worry control you. Trust God and His Word no matter what. Know that He is the one that will protect you. Know that He is the one that can make you sleep in safety. Know that He will protect you even if the world around you is crumbling, even if the mountains are falling into the sea, as Scripture says, that you can not be afraid. You can be strong in the Lord and trust in Him, knowing that He'll take care of any situation and give you the grace to handle and go through whatever you go through. So I trust that this article that I had written some 9 years ago now, almost 9 years ago now, be something that would encourage you even today, even with what's going on in our country because of these protests most of late, and because of the coronavirus and not knowing what may happen there. And may you just grow in your faith and go down in your fear. And I trust that you'll like this video, that you'll subscribe to this channel, that you'll share this with other people so they can benefit from knowing how to have faith and not fear, and not to create the wrong kind of fear, but the right kind of fear of God. And just hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when I put another video out, and subscribe to this channel, and I look forward to talking to you again next time about a lesson that we need to learn.